The Supreme Court is responsible for upholding the Constitution, interpreting the laws, and protecting the rights of the people. Usually, the Supreme Court has protected the rights of all people, but sometimes they have fallen short. While our nation's founding documents declare all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, the Constitution did not treat all people equally. In fact, in apportioning the population, enslaved people were only counted as 3/5 of a person. So who is a citizen of the United States? And who has the rights that come with being a full citizen? Who is responsible for protecting those rights? In an effort to keep the nation together and to continue to profit off of the institution of slavery, 1820, Congress passed the Missouri Compromise, outlawing slavery in the northern states and balancing the number of slave and free states. In 1824, the Missouri Supreme Court held that once a person was taken to a free state, then they were always free. Because of the once free, always free rule, over 300 freedom lawsuits were filed in St. Louis between 1814 and 1860. At least 1/3 of them were successful. By 1846, when a man named Dred Scott and his wife Harriet Scott filed a lawsuit for their freedom, they felt that they had a good chance of winning. Dred Scott was born into slavery in Virginia in the early 1800s. As a young person, he was sold to a cotton plantation in Alabama. Later, he was sold to John Emerson, an army surgeon in Missouri. Emerson took Dred Scott with him to live in Wisconsin, a free territory. They lived there for many years. Dred Scott met Harriet there. They got married and had 2 children. Then Emerson brought Dred Scott and his family back to St. Louis, Missouri, a slave state. John Emerson died in 1843. Dred was worried that his family could be separated and sold by Emerson's widow, so he tried to buy his family's freedom. When the widow refused, Harriet and Dred sued. Eventually, their case got all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The court ruled in a 6-2 decision against Dred Scott, finding that he was not a United States citizen, so he had no right to file a lawsuit. The court also ruled that the Missouri Compromise limiting the spread of slavery was unconstitutional. And in some of the worst language in Supreme Court history, Justice Taney said, "Black people were beings of an inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, so inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect." The decision slammed the door on any black person's claim to full citizenship anywhere in the United States. Even free black people were not guaranteed their freedom or their rights. In response, the anti-slavery movement grew stronger. Frederick Douglass, Martin Delany, and other abolitionists organized against slavery and the Dred Scott ruling. On June 8, 1866, the United States Senate passed the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was ratified by the states on July 9, 1868. The 14th Amendment says, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction, therefore are citizens of the United States. The 14th Amendment was passed to overturn the Dred Scott decision and to guarantee citizenship, equal protection, and due process to African Americans. The 14th Amendment has been critical in guaranteeing rights to all people regardless of race. An early challenge to the 14th Amendment involved Wong Kim Ark. He was born in San Francisco in 1870. His parents came from China. When he was young, there was a lot of anti-Chinese racism and violence. In 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act prohibiting the immigration of Chinese people. When he was 21, he visited China. When he returned to San Francisco, Wong Kim Ark was not allowed to enter because he was Chinese. In a lawsuit, he argued that he was a citizen because he was born in San Francisco. The government argued that he was not a citizen because his parents were not U.S. citizens and they were not subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. The case was appealed all the way to the Supreme Court. The court, in a 6-2 decision, held that the 14th Amendment was broad and Wong Kim Ark was a citizen of the United States because he was born on U.S. soil. On January 20th, 2025, the President of the United States signed an executive order saying the government will not recognize U.S. citizenship for any person whose parents either were not lawfully in the U.S. at the time of their birth or whose parents were here lawfully but only temporarily. The order was scheduled to go into effect on February 19, 2025. The courts have blocked the president's order, finding it unconstitutional, but the case is not over. The question for history will be, will the Supreme Court uphold its responsibility to follow the Constitution and protect the rights of all Americans born on this land, or will the court go the way of Dred Scott and turn away from the words of the law and legal precedent? And if the court does turn away from its responsibility, is it the responsibility of the people to stand up and protect the rights of our community members, just like abolitionists did after the Dred Scott decision?